I'm Dr. Ann Blake Tracy. I head a group known as the International Coalition for Drug Awareness. We focus on dangerous prescription medications. I do have directors around the world looking at the problems in each of their countries. The website is www.drugawareness.org. You're more than welcome to go there, sign up on an e-group, and we will update you on the latest new information coming out as soon as we get it. Like the study I mentioned as I came in on the fact that these antidepressants are working like LSD. As we go into this tonight, you will understand why it happened that way. I do have a degree in health sciences, a doctorate degree in health sciences with the emphasis on psychology. I have written Prozac Panacea or Pandora. I spent 4.5 years researching this information to make it available both for patients and for doctors. And I would like to say one thing in the beginning. I would like to dedicate this meeting, if I can do that, to those in this valley who've lost their lives as a result of using these medications, and to those who've had their lives completely destroyed. Some of those are my relatives as well. Jimmy Waite, Alan Whittenbreaker, Skylar Wren, Tony Ryder, Bill Farr, Robert Navarrete, Darren Baskins, Dr. Larry Porter, to name only a few. The greatest gift you can give to anyone in life is to learn from their experience so that you don't have to suffer as they have. This town, with that many deaths, should be up in arms about these drugs. It is a slap in the face for them to continue to be used in light of the number of those who have lost their lives and those who have had their lives totally destroyed. Young people that I don't know if they'll be able to rebuild their lives because of choices that they have made. And I think that is horrible. And I don't want to offend anyone. I'm hoping everyone does believe in the Bible. I would like to quote just a couple of scriptures tonight that I've run across that I think will really help us to understand some of what is happening in our day and age with the use of these drugs. First of all, out of Hosea, a scripture that a father in Warrensburg, Missouri, very tiny little town where I just spoke, whose son, 3 days on Zoloft, shot his wife and 6 children. He came to me and said, "If only we had known." And then he quoted this scripture, Hosea 4:6, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." But you know, I checked, and the next verse says, "Because you've rejected knowledge." So I want to encourage you to keep your minds open. Try to learn as much as you can, because as we turn to Revelations chapter 18, verses 23 and 24, talking about Babylon, he says, "For your merchants were the great men of the earth," or the rich men of the earth. "For by your sorcery all nations were deceived." If you look up sorcery, your Greek translation is pharmacopoeia. So by pharmacopoeia, all the nations were deceived in our day, and in her was found. the blood of prophets and saints, and all who were slain upon the earth. So it's pretty clear that we were given warnings to watch out for these things. How I wish I would have seen some of this sooner. We were told that they would call evil good and good evil in our day. These drugs that we're talking about tonight, the serotonergic drugs, are mainly prescribed as antidepressants. We saw some prescribed as diet pills, Fen-Phen, Redux, Meridia. But the antidepressants, Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, Luvox, Effexor, Serzone, Celexa. Did I miss any? Wellbutrin, Zyban, Serafem, which is Prozac, now being prescribed under the name Serafem for PMS. They were afraid that somebody wouldn't take it if they knew what it was that they were taking, obviously, so you change the name and it makes it better. If you look at the term antidepressant, what is an antidepressant? If it's the opposite of a depressant, you're looking at a stimulant. These drugs are stimulating. They are not calming, as so many people think that they are. Let me go into a little bit of the background, first of all, behind these drugs, and then we will go into why people get depressed, what is really going on in the body and in the brain, and what you can do to overcome that so that you don't have to use these drugs. First of all, in 1956, Eli Lilly Pharmaceutical Company, who started this whole group of drugs with the introduction of Prozac. In 1956, they introduced a new medication that was known as a wonder drug. This wonder drug that they introduced was going to cure mental illness, it was going to cure alcoholism, it was going to aid in psychoanalysis. That drug was LSD. It was thought to be so safe that some of the finest obstetricians in the Salt Lake Valley were giving it to pregnant women, just as we are now doing with these antidepressants. Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil are being given to pregnant women. I want you to know that they have that kind of a background. I want you to know that this company is not very clean as far as their history. Sometimes I think what they did was pull out all their old files on LSD and say, gee, let's call it Prozac this time. They are now making $7 million every day on this drug. $6 million a day on Zoloft, $6 million a day on Paxil. Altogether, the whole group of antidepressants is bringing in $30 to $40 million a day. So, I want you to understand that there are serious questions when you look at the history and how these drugs work. In the early 1950s, early to mid-50s, there was a doctor in Israel known as Dr. Felix Suleman. He was one of the initial researchers into serotonin. Now, serotonin is the chemical that these drugs are designed to increase in the brain. The same chemical that LSD and PCP increase to cause their effects. Dr. Suleman found that serotonin was actually a neurotoxin. That means it's toxic to the brain. It is stimulating to the brain. He coined a term called serotonin irritation syndrome. he found that there were people that were not able to break down serotonin,